Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, the content that we're going to talk about tonight is a win that we got in Washington State. Now, the reason that I'm covering this is not because Washington State alone got a win. This is really important because the way in which they got a win. Because as you guys are so familiar, we are constantly having to do lawsuits. We're having to do all these constitutional checks on the left's over-aggressive power. This is one of the things that they do. They know it's going to fail, but they do it anyway because it feels good. Doesn't matter if it's constitutional. That's what we're going to cover tonight. Everything's linked in the description box below for your review. This is a really, really good example of why preemption, something we've talked about a lot, is crucial to maintain. Like I said, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to do a quick word from our sponsor, and then we're going to hit it on the other side. Now, the USCCA is about something bigger than the right to bear arms. It's a resource to help you be ready for the before, during, and after a self-defense incident. If you're not one of the 500,000 plus responsibly armed Americans who are proud USCCA members, then now is the time to explore USCCA membership. Click the link in the description below now to learn about life-saving education and industry-leading training. And thank you to USCCA for making this possible. Like I said, link is in the description box. Let's get it. All right, so a little primer on this. Preemption is something that the NRA put into place and really fought for decades ago. This is a really important piece of our gunfight, okay? Now, one of the things about preemption basically says an individual city cannot preempt or supersede state law. So if I live in Georgia, Atlanta can't make their own gun laws because Georgia supersedes them, if that makes sense. And that's anywhere that preemption exists. That's why Colorado last year, when they removed preemption, that's why they can come out with mag bans, with AR bans, any kind of ban they want on a citywide level, because preemption was removed at a state level, if that makes sense. So what we're going to talk about tonight is how the Supreme Court in Washington struck down a basically safe storage ordinance in the city of Olympia. I believe it was Olympia. I know it was in Washington State, but this is really important. Check this out. I want to share this with you guys and let me know what you think. Supreme Court. State law preempts city gun storage ordinance. The Washington State Supreme Court has unanimously ruled that a city ordinance that requires that guns be locked up and kept out of unauthorized hands is preempted by state law. That is preemption through and through. Now, this is a new article from the AP today. Olympia, Washington. The Washington State Supreme Court on Thursday unanimously ruled that a city ordinance requiring that guns be locked up and kept out of unauthorized hands is preempted by state law. I just mentioned that in the intro. The ruling affirmed a 3-judge State of Appeals ruling last year in the case sparked by a lawsuit filed by 3 residents against the city of Edmonds, after the city approved an ordinance in July 2018 requiring residents to lock up their guns or else face fines. Now, this is very similar to what they tried to pass in New Mexico, and this is where it bleeds across to all of us, not just Washington State or New Mexico. This is everywhere. This is clearly something that violates preemption from what they're trying to do. Now, the difference here is Washington State in Edmonds, they did it on a city level. New Mexico was trying to do it on a state level, but it failed. Really important distinction, but this is why we need to keep preemption in place. Quote, this is from the ruling. Under our system of divided government, many elected bodies hold legislative power, including elected city councils. These councils, however, must legislate within constitutional constraints. Chief Justice Stephen Gonzalez wrote, joined by the 8 other justices on the High Court. Now keep in mind, this is in Washington State. It's not exactly a conservative bastion. That's how strong preemption is. Quote, one of those constraints is that city ordinance must not conflict with general laws that have been enacted by the people of our state by initiative or by state legislature. So again, reinforcing preemption. If anyone not permitted to use the gun got access to it, and this is what they tried to pass in the ordinance, under the statute, the owner would be held civilly liable and fined up to $1,000, very similar to New Mexico's bill. If an unauthorized person used the firearm to commit a crime or hurt themselves or others, the gun owner could be fined up to $10,000. Its enforcement was put on hold following an October decision at the Superior Court level. And that's why what we're doing is so important. Everything that we do, they can push as far as they want, but as long as we stay the course and we fight back in the check of their power, they're going outside of their constitutional bounds. That's why they have so much trouble with other things. The ghost gun ban is going to be a big thing. The bump stock ban is going to be a big thing. All of these bans are they're basically stretching the power of executive, legislative, or judicial, depending on which way you look at it. But that's the beauty of our system. It is built in checks and balances. Now, check this out. This is very important about preemption. The Supreme Court noted that the city argued that since the ordinance did not apply to guns in the owner's possession, quote, that ordinances pertaining to storage are not preempted. They're basically trying to say, no, if it was in there, it was on their person, then it's not subject to preemption. But if it's not on them, then that's preemptive. It's kind of a stupid argument. This is what the judge said. Quote, we decline to limit the preemption statute to firearms transactions in active use, Gonzalez wrote. That limitation is simply not consistent with the words of the statute as a whole, and so they tried to BS him and they didn't buy it. The court pointed out that this statute, adopted by the legislature in 1985, specifies the state fully occupies and preempts the entire field of firearms regulation, and that's the really important part. Everything that we're looking at here, everything that we've seen over the past year, 2 years, we've been spending a lot of time around this topic together, preemption is so strong, it's preventing all of these really egregious infringements upon the Second Amendment where it exists, which again is why Colorado got rid of it last year. And that's what I have for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments field below, and I will see you tomorrow morning on the bullet points. I'm Braden. See you later.